Alright, hello folks, I'm LA. This is your daily TA wrap, where we take a look at these markets and we do it from a neoclassical perspective. Each time asking ourselves what happened today and what does it tell us about the coming ones. I do a show 4 times a week, Monday through Thursday, live here at 9 o'clock Eastern Time on the base of the Rocky Mountains. Folks, it was an up day again today, kind of a mixed day really. You had to rustle up, the NASDAQ was strong. You had weakness in the Dow and in the S&Ps. Not much, but some. Let's look at the ending numbers real quick. Dow was down 25. Percentage-wise, you can see it wasn't that much of a move either way. You had it up 0.29 here, down as much as 0.15 there. Gold pushed higher today, took off 1% higher. That was a nice push. Silver actually did a nice reversal. Dollar got beat down again today. So, you know, when you look at what's happening and you think about, you know, what's coming, you've got a lot of PMI numbers coming tomorrow. You've got the ECB unemployment numbers on Thursday. It's a holiday shortened week. Half a day trading on Thursday as well. So it's going to be a fun, packed week with the data points. Technically, the market's strong. I mean, you can see it here on the S&Ps. Although today you did go over, back under, less volume. That suggests it's going to try to pull back tomorrow, at least on the S&Ps. And if you look at the Dow, it's the same story, over, back, under, less volume. Move over to the NASDAQ, though, it's a different story. NASDAQ goes higher, higher price holds. NDX, same thing, higher price holds, although it has a little bit of a tail. And the Russell, now the Russell is a nice big 2-day push now over this 4-4 bar that goes off tomorrow. But that 4-4 bar was the last big breakdown bar. Got over it on Friday, held over it. Got over it again today, held over it. It's going to test this high tomorrow. And if you pull the Russell up, put it on a weekly, you're going to see that last breakdown bar, 1196.70. We're going for that number, and this is on the weekly now. 1196.70, going for it probably this week. Gets over it, it's going back to the highs. There is volume up there at the highs. So the Russell, the laggard, if you will, on the larger scope of things, coming back, slowly coming back, doing a V-shaped reversal. You know, how many times have we seen this kind of action in the market, right? Over and over and over. Looks like it's going to break down. No, going to V-shape back the other way. Every time we see it, that's exactly what we get, and we usually get new highs out of it. New highs would be up here. I wouldn't be surprised to see that transpire. Let's go over and look at the sector. So if we're talking about the indexes, we've got a mixed market. We've got strength in the OTC. We've got not weakness, but we have over-unders that could give us some sort of a small pullback on the S&P and the Dow, the listed issues. On the sectors themselves, also some mixed signals over here. If we just pop through these, IYT looks like it's going to test the top. That looks like kind of a neutral case. SOX though, the SOX is back up, going to test this high. I don't know that it's going to get over it. It does have a weekly ABCD structure up to about 50, not 51, but 89. No, that's not 89. I'm on the SOX. Yeah, it's 89. 89, almost 90. So still on a weekly basis, some more room potentially, but it looks to me like coming back the way it is, has a good chance of failing there, trying to pull back. Where we do have some serious strength is the XLB. Remember, XLB has been pushing up with volume, and if you take a look at this, and again, I'm going to borrow from my friend Charles Kirk. He loves these cup and handle type situations. That's exactly what you got going on up here. You know, a breakout from a cup and handle is the distance from here, right? That could be up into that area. A nice big setup here. If you look at it from a neoclassical perspective, what do you got? Each push up, more volume, pullbacks, less volume. And what are you doing? You're attacking that swing point high. You haven't gotten over it yet, but when you do get over it, right, it's clear sailing. There's nothing above it. So it looks to me this thing is going to try to break out and probably try to break out tomorrow. And with the metal starting to move again, with copper breaking out itself, it looks to me like this is the place where some money's going to rotate to. XLE has been working its way back up slowly. Still wants to get back up and test its breakdown bar. That's this 101.28 area off the June 24th bar. I would expect it's probably going to do that. And if I look over at the USO came back in, tested that big bar that we were looking for it to test. Test it. How does it test it? Well, Neoclassical says, hey, if you test it with lower volume, you reverse. What is it telling you? It's telling you there's more buyers than sellers at lower prices. That usually says this thing's going to bounce and go back the other way. Where's the test on the upside? Well, it's the top of the volume bar. You get back over that, you can actually extend farther. You'd have a nice big ABCD structure if you do that. And so you can see the setup. I don't know that it's going to do it. You may see some sideways trading up here, but it does look like it's going to try to pop back up there and head back up again. XLF, financials, still struggling. They had a little bit more volume today. They tested over Friday, had more volume. They'll probably test again tomorrow. XLI is kind of struggling, can't really get going. Doesn't look bad, still doing a retest regen off this prior high. For those of you maybe watching for the first few times, let me refresh you. A swing point high, once broken, when it comes back to test, there's a very high probability if you go more than 6 bars, which we've done way more than 6 bars, that that area should hold and you should see price extend back up. That's the regeneration part. Right now, this thing's struggling to do it. So far, it doesn't have the volume to break it down, and the fact that it was more than 6 bars suggests that it probably will do it. Still waiting to see XLI regenerate higher. XLK, this is a tired little puppy. This one went up, tested the highs, didn't have the volume. That's a test failure of the highs. I would think it tries to retrace. XLP can't really do anything, still kind of sitting there. Really nothing. Pushed up a little bit more volume today, but it pushed into this bottom of this huge bar. So you can see the scenario here, right? You test into the lows of the big bar. That's this bar. You don't have the volume, right? What does that tell you? There's not people willing to pay up at higher prices. That says what? It's going to go test these lows again, try to break them down. This is in danger actually of doing an ABCD down. It's the first of the indexes showing us that kind of behavior now. If it breaks, and it looks like it has a good chance of breaking, that would be the first one to transition trend back down. You don't want to see more than 2 or 3 do that, because if they do, then most of them will do it. So I always watch to see who's the first to give it up, and then do we get any follow through elsewhere. We'll see if this one gives it up, and then of course we'll be looking for the follow through. On the follow through side of the upside, XLU, up and over. Swing point high gets over today. It is a breakout, doesn't have the volume off this bar, so you can see that volume's lower, so it's going to be suspect on the breakout, but yet it can carry, and that's a huge ABCD structure to the upside if it actually does. This also had a breakout on the weekly, if you remember. If we pop it over here, put it on the weekly, you had a breakout on the weekly, so you actually have probably one of the more bullish situations you can have. You have a weekly breakout in conjunction with the daily breakout, and that's about as powerful a breakout you can get. The only better thing is to have multiple swing points you're breaking out instead of just one on each time frame, and potentially on multiple time frames, meaning 3 instead of just 2. So not the most powerful breakout, but a good one, and looks to try to carry. XLV still holding, looking like it's going to try to retrace into this high. I don't know if it's going to get there or not. It also had, when it broke out here, had a breakout on the weekly the week before, the weekly as well, and on the daily. Got its extension, trying to pull back a little bit here. Doesn't look bad, but looks like it could pull back in a little bit more. XLY still off that April 4th bar, got over it, held over it, did a retest regen, and is regenerating higher. Now this one tested twice, and when you see these tests twice, it gets you a little bit more concerned, because if this thing does come back down, odds are very high that it will break and get down into these lower areas where you see the support zones down here. So again, just like we were talking about the XLP, this is one you want to watch, because I suspect this would be a good candidate to get some sort of follow through to the downside if it's going to happen. That high was 66.91. Didn't quite get to it today. Probably will try it tomorrow. If it fails there, you may get a retrace. So sectors, not bad, but mixed. Mixed also. You got 2 or 3 that look like they want to try to come in, and then you got 2 or 3 still trying to go up. If I go over to the oxys markets, so let's go to gold and silver first. They have been holding, and you know, you're always looking, when the equity markets are strong, you're looking for reasons that it could fail. Well, gold is telling us something's going on. I don't know what it is, but whatever it is happening. You come back in, so this is 3, 4, 5, 6. This is the 7th bar now, sideways. You get the breakout now over this high. You've tested into it day after day. Now you're at this swing point high. You're going to try to break it and really get an extension to the upside. Look at your ABCD structure here, and let me see, it's going to be to there, back down, and back up. You can see how large it is. Volume comes in today on the breakout. This tells me that there's still a lot of short covering going on. They're willing to pay higher and higher prices. Who is? The people that have been short this thing got caught with their pants down. On the weekly, doesn't look quite as strong. Let me pull the weekly over. Doesn't look quite as strong here on the weekly, but this can extend and get all the way back up to this high. So I don't see anything wrong with the behavior here. And as a matter of fact, you have to like the behavior if you're bullish, because you came into a retest regen, full retest regen, and now you're over it. If this holds over it for 1 or 2 bars on this time frame, right, this thing's going to go up higher. So gold looking pretty good. If I look at the silver, silver today had a weak day, came back into this big bar. So here's your test on the week, on the daily. Bear with me, let me get it up here, get my little pencil, here we go. So here's the test, back into it, right? See the support zone that was there? It came all the way down right to the bottom of that support zone, flipped around. This thing's going to try to head higher tomorrow. So silver, gold, both pushing to the top side, and they're doing it with weakness in the dollar, right? As the dollar pulls back, makes gold more expensive. Gold's been pushing up. Now this may change this week, and the reason I say that is if you know the dollar, about 50% of its weighting is in the FXE. And if you go over and look at the FXE now is finally doing that retest regen. I think I've told you that I expected it to come back and do it, get over this high. Remember, we pushed up with high, so it had to come back and test it. Well, not only did it test it, got over it, it may do the full retest regen now. Get up to these highs. What is today? Today's Monday. When is Draghi going to do his thing? Thursday. What does he want? He wants lower FXE. He doesn't want a higher one. You know, he wants this thing down, not up. So he's going to do something, or I would expect he's going to do something to try to push this thing back down and break it down. So Thursday's the day on that. In between that, you're getting short covering. Maybe people got nervous Nellies not knowing what he's going to do. If I go over and look at the FM, this is the frontier market. The frontier market is probably the most speculative of the equity markets, doing a big ABCD structure on the way down. What does that tell you? Well, I guess it tells me the fact that it couldn't hold here, now it's extending, tells me that yeah, people want to be in equities, but they want to be in what? Safe equities. They don't want the risky ones. They're coming out of the risk, coming into safety, right? They want to be safe. I don't know if there's anything that's safe. If they all start moving down, or if enough of them start moving down, they all will move down. But certainly the beta here is much higher than elsewhere, and this one's selling off. That's not a good sign. You don't want to see the most speculative part of the market start giving it up. If you think back about what caused the breakdown, and we'll flip over to a weekly. What caused the breakdown earlier this year? Well, you got it in the most speculative part of our equity markets, which was the biotech. Biotechs had a screaming run all the way up from 164 to 274. That's $110 on a 164 number. We're talking 65-70% in 7 months. Well, it came off 40 of those, or 50 of them, I guess 40. Now it's of course coming back up, but what led to the rest of the markets down? Well, it was the speculative part of it. Now, I don't know that the FM is the same, because the FM is around the world, but it is speculative and people aren't putting their money in it anymore, so that's a difference. And let me see what else. Those were the main things. You know, if you have questions you want to ask me, you can text me 303-912-9110, or you can email support@tatoday.com. Either way, we can take your questions and try to answer them for you. I've got a couple that were emailed to me. I think the desire was to get this done last night, but I did a show early last night, so I'm going to pick them up tonight and look at them. Let me pull over to, let me actually throw these in so I get the multiple charts up, so bear with me just a second. So the two stocks that they want to look at is PCN and JMI. Let's start with PCM. PCN, not M. This is the income strategy fund. Had a big down here. Now this is probably paying dividends, so that was probably the dividend. Let me read what was asked here. So I am looking to buy PCN for a 1% gain plus a 0.11 dividend with ex-dividend closed to 710. Okay, so the ex-dividend goes on 710. Did the 626 high volume bar define a range? And that's this bar. And do you think it will bounce up to the upper part of that range in the next week or two? Well, that's an interesting question, because you actually have a little different scenario here than you had before. Okay, so you got a range. So let's talk about the range first, right? You've kind of had, actually the range is about that big, and it's right at the bottom of it. Problem is it actually broke a swing point low this time. It broke this one, and you've got two more hanging down there real close. And today it may have broken the other one. Let's take a look. So that low was 1697, closed right at it. And volume 7790, 75. Let me see what the weekly looks like. So here's what's happening, right? So the weekly has two swing point highs the other way. So this thing goes in there, breaks one of them right here, right? Was trying to get over the other one, which is a wide price spread bar. This guy over here is a wide price spread bar. You can see the big bar there. Volume is so-so, but the wide price spread. Can't get over it, pulls back. So what's it going to do? It's probably not going to go back within the next week or two. Looks to me like you're actually going to see it grind around down here, maybe even trade lower if it gets under another swing point. Because, and the reason I say that is because you had volume on that big tail. So you got a wide price spread bar, high volume. That says it's probably going to trade lower. I would expect it's going to break these other swing points, and if so, get even deeper, maybe as deep as down here, right? And then you potentially get your move back up. that trade down to that area would be towards the lower end of these two ranges now, right? So I probably wouldn't go after this one. I'd probably look elsewhere. This one looks like it's got some more work to do. Let's see what the other one is. JMI. So JMI, I asked about a bounce in JMI from a support zone on Friday morning. This is a member asking me this. You thought it was likely to bounce. You really called it. Most of the increase happened last 10 minutes of trading. This was on Friday. This is funny because I did answer this morning, and I suggested that you might get a little bit more pullback today, but it's probably going to go higher. Well, I guess we called it twice, didn't we? Because we broke out in a major way today. This is a nice big breakout. I didn't think it would get this deep today. I was suggesting, stops up underneath here. It got deep into it, still held, and then really on a volatile move, big volume, blows out the tops. Nice move. I hope you held it. Over multiple swing points. Let's see what the weekly looks like on this guy. Okay, so these highs are they're in their game now. So if I look up here, you got two swing point highs plus you have this bar. So I would think this is where it's trying to get to. And if you're still in it, I'd certainly hold it. I think you're going to get a shot at these swing point highs. It will probably fail when it gets there because it'll be a big move and exhausted by the time it gets there. But it does look like it's going to make a run for it. So hopefully you're still in it. Javelin, mortgage investment, looking pretty strong. All right, let's see what else we got here. So any other questions? I don't see any right now, so let me pop over. I haven't had a chance to look at the overseas markets. Let me take a minute and see what those guys look like. So we were expecting China, Asia to keep trying to trade higher, and for Europe to get a bounce going. Let's pop over to Europe first because I didn't see the ending numbers today there. See what they look like. So here's the CACs. All right, so the CAC test that low, 44.12. Got under it, closes at 44.22. 1.01 point. Yeah, that's nice. It's exactly what you want. This one's going to bounce. Now, the CACs, I've said this many times. The CACs is probably the most damaged piece of goods in Europe from the majors, in the major markets. They've got a government that just spends like crazy. They're not growing. Their GDP, the ratio of debt to GDP just keeps escalating. These guys are in serious straits. They've got some hard choices to make at some point. And the longer they wait, the worse it gets. But this one is going to try to bounce, and we'll probably see that tomorrow. Now, every time you get retraces, and especially when you get deep ones, right? This is a decent deep retrace. What you really want to see is how does it act when it comes back to an area where the sellers should show up. That's going to be right here. This is going to be the spot. And so as it bounces back up, can it get or attract buyers above this area? If it can't, it's going to set up an ABCD structure on the downside, and that's going to probably measure from here back to that area and then back down. So this is a problem if it can't hold. So we'll see how that one acts. Now, the DAX is the one that's going to pull it higher if it happens. Let's see what the DAX looks like. So the DAX, that top was 98.98. Didn't get to it. That's good. So it's still inside. And that one still looks fine. Now this one was doing a retest regen off this swing point high. And so far it is regenerating higher. Clearly more than 6 bars. When we were talking about the 6 bars, you've got like 20 of them here. So it should bounce off that area. It has bounced off that area. Now the question is will it come back? And when I say it's bounced, to regenerate, you actually need to get back over the highs. But the regeneration starts right, by getting back over the swing point high that you're regenerating into. So 98, 10, 29, you're over it, right? So you've gone into it, you're back over it. Now if you come back in it again, right, then that would be another test. In other words, once you get out of here and you don't trade back into this area, then you come back into it, that's a second test. Second test, not nearly as strong. So you want to see, if you're bullish, especially if you're bullish in Europe, you want to see it get back over this bar. You want to see it do it pronto. It needs to do it this week. 98.98, that's the number. So let's see what the FTSE looks like real quick. Starting to run out of time. So the FTSE, and this one also wants to try to trade ABCD structures, right? Because this one already has an ABCD structure in place. And it's actually a good sign if you're bullish that it hasn't been able to regenerate lower yet, but it's still hanging here, so it still could do so. So you got CACs not looking so great, wanting to bounce. You got the FTSE probably going to hang out here, maybe bounce a little bit more. And then you got, because it left volume at the bottom, so this one not going anywhere fast. And then you got the DAX that wants to try to pull everybody up. Let's go over and see what Hong Kong looks like. Here's the 8 shares. So they trade over, back under, but they had higher volume. They're going to try to test higher again tonight. Hong Kong also trades over, back under, has higher volume. Will also try to trade higher again tonight. So Asia will try to trade higher. Let's see what Japan looks like. Inside bar, lower volume, doesn't tell me anything. Let's see what Taipei looks like. New highs, just keeps on chugging along. They love it. And for my friends in Canada, let me go over to the Toronto Exchange. Let me get Toronto up. Here we go. Come on, Toronto. Where are you at? There you are. Okay, so over to highs. So it gets back over the breakdown bar. That's a good sign. Now it needs to stay over it. And that's going to be a chore to stay over it. Let me look at Australia for my friends down under. And down under is still in the range. Really nothing happening here. You got a huge range. And then kind of a messy sub-range inside of it. And another one on the top side, right? So it tests into that halfway area, can't do anything. Now it's going to try to test the lows again. And that's surprising with the strength we see in the materials. All right, that's it for tonight. It looks to me like these markets are going to be mixed tomorrow. You got PMI numbers around the world starting tonight, all through the day tomorrow. Asia, Europe, back to the US. Then you got a day that's kind of quiet on Wednesday, and then some big numbers on Thursday, and we shut down early on Thursday. So it's going to be a packed week. It's probably going to see a little bit of volatility pick up. Problem is, and you could see that, I don't know what the problem is, but you could see that pick up as a result of, is the way I should say it, the fact that we have thin volumes. The market can't get a lot more volatile with all these numbers coming out because Wall Street's taking vacation, probably for the most part this week. Hey folks, thanks for joining me. Have yourself a great night, and I'll see you next time. Till then, I'm LA. This is and it was your daily TA wrap. Have a great night, and I'll see you tomorrow. Good night, folks.